It was a test, cruel, calculated, and cold, the kind of test only a man who no longer believed in goodness would devise. In the heart of a mansion where marble floors echoed with emptiness and chandeliers gleamed like frozen tears, a safe stood open, wide and waiting. Inside, bundles of $100 bills sat stacked like bricks of greed, glittering beneath the soft hum of the chandelier. Ropes of gold, diamond necklaces, rare watches, all left deliberately exposed, and hidden in the shadowed archway. Alexander Ashworth, billionaire, widower, cynic, watched. He wasn't angry. He wasn't nervous. He was curious. For years, he had seen the world strip him bare, lovers who lied, friends who betrayed, partners who stole. The wealth he built was both his armor and his prison. He had learned to trust no one, not even kindness. Especially kindness, but there was something about her, Camila, his housemaid for 7 months. A widow. Quiet. Graceful. Almost invisible. And yet, her silence carried a strange dignity that unsettled him. She didn't flatter him. She didn't gossip. She never lingered, never complained, too perfect, he thought. No one is that good. So, Alexander decided to know for sure. That morning, he ordered his staff to leave early. The cameras off. The safe open. A trap disguised as temptation, and as the antique clock ticked toward 8:42 a.m., the moment arrived. Camila stepped into the study, unaware that behind the archway, a man's faith in humanity hung by a thread. Camila paused when the gleam of metal caught her eye. The safe door was ajar, just enough to reveal stacks of cash inside. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Her heart thudded like a fist in her chest. She looked around. Silence. The room smelled faintly of lemon polish and old books. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, scattering gold across the marble. It was too beautiful, too strange, like a scene meant to deceive. Slowly, she took a step closer. Inside the hidden hallway, Alexander held his breath. He watched every flicker of her expression, the way her eyes darted, the hesitation in her step, the faint tremble of her hands. Would she touch it? Would she take it? Camila stood before the open safe, her fingers curling around the edge of her duster. The sight of that much money was dizzying. Her mother's medicine, her daughter's tuition, the unpaid rent notices stacked on her kitchen table, all flashed before her eyes. For a heartbeat, she imagined what it would feel like to be free from it all. Then she exhaled. Slowly, with calm precision, she reached into her apron, not for the money, but for a small rag, and began wiping the dust off the metal frame. Her movements were steady, respectful, as if she were cleaning something sacred. She didn't touch a single bill. Alexander's brow furrowed. This wasn't what he expected. When she finished, she stepped back and hesitated again. Then, from her pocket, she pulled out a small, creased photograph, the kind worn from years of being held too often. She gazed at it for a long moment, her lips moving in a whisper, then she placed it gently on the shelf beside the money. Even from the shadows, Alexander could see the picture, 2 little girls with matching ribbons in their hair, smiling in front of a hospital bed where an older woman lay smiling weakly. Camila's voice, soft and trembling, broke the silence. Someday, Mama. Someday soon. She kissed the photo, slipped it back into her pocket, and closed the safe, quietly, deliberately, as if sealing away a secret. Alexander's throat tightened. He turned away before she could see the tears forming in his eyes. That night, he couldn't sleep. The image of her gentle hands, her quiet reverence, the photograph, it all replayed like a confession he didn't deserve to hear. For years, Alexander had justified his loneliness as wisdom. People are selfish, he would say. Kindness is just strategy. Loyalty is bought. But Camila had shattered that narrative in a single moment of silence. She didn't know she was being watched. She didn't perform for anyone. She simply chose integrity. At dawn, Alexander sat in his study, pen trembling over paper. For the first time in decades, he wrote a letter, not a contract, not a threat, but a thank you. Camila, integrity cannot be bought, only witnessed that you've reminded me of something I thought I'd lost, peace that I don't know your whole story, but I saw enough to understand that the greatest wealth a person can have is a clean conscience. Your daughters and your mother deserve security, not fear. Enclosed is a check. It's blank. Fill in what you need. No one will question it. This is not a reward, it's gratitude. Alexander Ashworth. When Camila found the letter on the kitchen counter the next morning, her knees nearly gave out. The signature alone carried more power than any bank seal. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the check, real, signed, Limitless. Tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. She clutched the letter to her chest and whispered a prayer through her sobs. Her daughter's laughter echoed faintly in her memory. Her mother's fragile voice saying, "Everything will be okay," though it never was. Now, maybe it could be. That weekend, a black car pulled up outside a small, crumbling apartment complex. Children playing in the courtyard froze as the polished vehicle gleamed under the afternoon sun. Alexander stepped out, carrying a folder. Camila met him at the door, her uniform spotless but her eyes red from crying. "Mr. Ashworth. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied gently. "Just let me help." He entered the modest living room, clean but worn, every piece of furniture telling a story of sacrifice. On the wall, the same photograph from the safe hung in a cracked frame. The little girls peeked out from behind the doorway, giggling shyly. Alexander smiled. "You must be Sophia and Clara." The girls nodded, wide-eyed. He handed Camila the folder. "This is the deed to a house. Quiet neighborhood, close to the school. It's in your name. You'll never pay rent again." Camila covered her mouth, sobbing. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you reminded me who I wanted to be," he said softly. "And because no one should be punished for doing what's right." He visited often after that, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to talk. Over time, their conversations grew easier. The walls around his heart began to crumble, replaced by laughter, stories, and trust. Camila became the head of domestic operations at the estate, managing staff, schedules, and budgets. But more than that, she became a friend, the kind Alexander had never believed existed. Years later, after Alexander passed away peacefully in his sleep, a clause in his will surprised everyone. It read, "To Camila Rivera and her daughters, the ones who taught me that integrity needs no audience, I leave the Ashworth estate. May it be a home where honesty continues to live." Camila wept as she stood in the marble-floored study, sunlight dancing across the same safe that once tested her. She touched its cold steel surface and smiled. What once symbolized greed now represented grace. She placed the old photograph inside the safe again, not as a temptation, but as a reminder that integrity, once chosen in silence, had echoed loud enough to change a man's heart, and a family's future. Morale. Sometimes the loudest tests are taken in silence, sometimes the richest hearts are found in the poorest homes, and sometimes, a single act of integrity, unseen, unrewarded, becomes the seed that transforms everything. If this story touched you, remember to share it. Because the world still needs reminders that honesty matters, even when no one is watching.